Hello, rodeo fans. Welcome to episode 21 of the Short Round, the official podcast of the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson. Once again, joined by my pal, Clay Creasy. Clay, I am boots on the ground in St. T, Quebec right now, so it's been a challenge for us to get together here and get the podcast recorded. But nonetheless, here we are. We're a week after the season has ended, or just a little under the week since the season ended. There were some crazy races coming out of BC and crazy wild finishes at the end of it. It was quite the weekend of rodeo.
That just having all of those events in BC to cap off the 2024 season just really built up a ton of suspense and just a
Mm.
lot of really interesting things happened. I ran into somebody the other day, and again, a barrier was the difference between him making the CFR or not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just the game of inches. I saw another thing where Team Roper had a loop. When you watch it in slow mo, there's no way that one foot should have got out of it, and
Yeah.
yet he ropes a leg, and again, that one likely a chance as well. So there's just so many almost happens, and yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, you couldn't pick like hand pick a place to wrap up your pro tour, your season, or anything, but like better than BC and then Armstrong like that. Like I was there all 5 nights, and that what they have going on there, man, it's something special. Like the crowd is always. You've been there, Clay. You know what it's like. But the night performances, the crowd's always extra rowdy. Denny Halstead's giving her, and then now they got Brett's doing a good job there. Teddy's doing a good job on the music. The whole production, like they do such a great job. Now having features part of it too, like the Cowboy Channel experience I heard was even better at that point. So it's just it's too bad we lost the month of the season, I guess, for those trying to make the push, but it's a great place to wrap things up if you ask me.
You bet. There's just a lot of performances in there. Armstrong has been an amazing rodeo for decades,
Hmm.
and to make it that kind of end of the season show and profile, uh, not quite the words I'm looking for.
Yeah,
That yeah, just to have that showcase there at Armstrong, it just really lends itself to that. I think it's something that this has really become a hallmark of the CPRA season,
hmm hmm
and yeah, it ends up being a great way to wrap up a season with so much on the line. I think you see in the PRCA with that Governor's Cup that they've got going on down there. Anytime they've had those big championships that wrap up the season, it just really adds a suspense and
Just to the
gives
next
so many
level.
more contestants those chances to
Yeah.
really bring it home.
Yeah, it's a fun way to wrap it up. But anyways, Clay, let's jump into the results here. So in the bareback riding, we knew it was going to be a two dog fight to the end and on the season leader side of things, but we didn't know it would be this close. Oren Larson and Clint Lay both picked up a couple big wins over the weekend.
You know, Oren again, he had to walk that line of rodeo and hard in the States right now because he's working his way up there. He had a good showing in Ellensburg, split the long round there, and had a good ride in the short round. And so he didn't hit up everything up here, and but he had enough of a lead going into the weekend that winning the rodeo in Armstrong, the IPE there, set him up. He had that 818 Dirty Deeds of Northcott Ewells, made $3,300 there, and that was enough.
Yep.
I didn't realize going into that weekend that he had that much of a lead on Clint.
Mm,
I had thought they were just that little bit closer. So when I was seeing things, I was like, oh geez, like this is, but
yeah.
but in the end, it was he needed pretty much everything he had.
Yeah. No, it was a thrilling finish, and it's gonna be fun to see those two guys duke it out in Edmonton for a Canadian title. I don't think you couldn't ask for a better championship race. And there's still some guys kind of in that top five that could come within striking distance. I think of those two, but I think you're really going to see those two emerge as kind of the front runners right from the get go once we do get to Edmonton.
It will be. I think it's a two dog fight at the top. Like you say, there is some tough competitors in behind there, and there's going to be so much money at Edmonton that you're going to see some of those people that might surprise you. Again, we saw
Mm.
in this last weekend some of those other competitors had some big money weekends, but again, you look at Clint. I mean, makes another 5,800
Yeah.
bucks out of that weekend. I mean, he did all he could in his power to use every horse that he had
Mhm.
and placed on all of them, but just yeah, he's definitely within the side mirror view of Oren going into
Yeah.
CFR.
It's gonna be fun to watch, man. Looking at the breakaway open. So Lori Saunders, she threw the gauntlet down and showed everybody why she's been the season leader for probably what 90% of the 2024 season. Winning the Armstrong rodeo side of things with a 2.4 second. Also got a placing out of merit, so she extended her lead. But the person we need to talk about the breakaway opening is Shea Beaver. The reigning Canadian champion was on the outside looking in, heading into the weekend. She needed to make some big runs. She missed her calf in the SMS Tour final, so she needed to make a run in merit, and that's exactly what she did.
No doubt, it's just great to see, yeah, a competitor like Shea there who rose to the occasion that last day of the CFR last year to bring home the title, and again here with the chips needing to fall where they could there in merit, and she just stepped up there and did what she needed to get up there, and just again it was a thrilling race for that event at both ends. Again, there was a push for those competitors behind Lori on the season leader end of things, and as well to get in there. So it's just really, again, tough event.
Oh, well,
And
there were so many ties. We talked about it all season, the breakaway open. There's ties all over the board, man. It's wild how fast these gals are. So it's gonna be awesome, and I'm stoked that Shea got found her way in. In the steer wrestling, another guy on the bubble made some big moves. Matt Richardson got picked up a fourth place check in Armstrong after getting a rerun, declaring himself at the gate because he didn't the gate didn't open when he nodded. Was what the story was. But anyways, he jumped up in the 10th place, clinching a spot at the CFR, and then you move to the other end of the standings where Scott Gunther, Landon Beardsworth, and who's the third one's name I'm blanking on?
Ryan Schuckberg
Ryan
there, yeah,
Schuckberg were all battling it out for the season leader, and lo and behold, the CFR rookie is going to go into the CFR as the season leader in Landon Beardsworth in this year wrestling.
not a better spot to go into your first CFR than in season leader. And again, that race for season leader, it in the end, Landon pulled ahead of Ryan by $13.45.
That's crazy, man.
Just
Dollars and
mind-boggling.
cents, man. Dollars and cents.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Scotty had the biggest weekend of the three, and of any of the steer wrestlers,
Hmm.
but he was just a little bit farther back. I mean, again, those three have been dogging so well. I think Ryan has just a little quieter than some of the others. I know we haven't really focused on him a bunch, but again, they definitely stepped up this weekend. It looks, I mean, Ryan gets the win in merit. I mean, Landon, he's big checks at Armstrong and Merritt, and Scotty placed at all three of them. I mean, they
Roll.
came and they definitely threw it down.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was fun to watch, man, for sure. Another guy who surprised me, who I'm pretty sure on the last episode of the Half Point, I said he likely wasn't going to make the CFR, but he made me eat my words, and I'm so pumped about it. It was Cole Ashbacker. He had a huge weekend out west, picked up the win in Langley, making a back-to-back champ, picked up the win in Merritt, picked up another bunch of money there, and found himself in the 10th position and heading to the CFR.
You just that's one of those stories that you're hoping to see happen, and you're just so grateful to see it
Mhm.
happen again for Cole and the whole Ashbacker family. Again, losing his mom and everything like that. I know we talked about it when we made predictions, and I know every one of us was pulling for Cole
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
hoping for him. And I enjoyed seeing that he was saying that his mom was picking his horses for him, and that killing time. I tried to reach out to Chase Kessler about that horse because I'd saw Cole say, I mean, they don't ride him much,
No, no.
and it wasn't easy. Like there, it was a knife fight for Cole to get through that, and I mean, he persevered. Cole can get by
Tough
some
horses,
wild
man.
and
You can
and
ride
and
them.
hard to deal with horses, and he needed that, and so to see him jump in there was good to see.
Yeah, and another guy who had a big weekend was Wyatt Casper. Picked up $5,900 between the rodeos over the weekend, which bumped out Kyle Wanchuk and Dawson Dom, which is tough to see, but will be good to have someone of Wyatt's caliber at the CFR here in a few weeks. Where are we going next, Clay? Tie down rope and Jason Smith. had a good run, and also Strand Dunham, a guy we've talked a bit about on here now, got a huge run down at when won the tour finals and then picked up a second merit. But tell us a bit about that, Clay.
So Jason Smith, he's the youngest of the Smith brothers there from
Hmm.
out by Wimborne. Again, his uncle Guy is a Canadian champ there, and their dad Garnet. I mean, they're ranchers, they're cowboys, but they know
Hmm.
how to rope those calves. And Jason again came from outside of things. He was 14th going into the weekend and just made a really, really good run there in Armstrong. And again, there's so much money at that rodeo that you didn't have to win for it to have a big impact. I mean,
Hmm.
placing fourth, we saw that was enough in the steer wrestling and the calf roping for contestants to climb that pile and get in there. And again, another check in merit just really helped him. I
He
mean,
had a
we
good
had
weekend. I remember seeing
yeah,
his run, his 7.9. The boys are fired up, so it's good to see Jason making some moves.
they're all great guys. I mean, I run into Blair, their oldest brother there. He's been back rodeoing at the semi-pro level this year, and Shane and Jason there making it this year. It's going to be cool to see those two competing together at the CFR
Yeah.
and just yeah, I mean, sad to see both of the Pascals ended up on the wrong side of things there. Jesse was in the top 12 going into the weekend, and again Tyler just on the cusp of it, but just didn't quite fall the way they wanted, and that's unfortunately the way she
That's
goes.
that's the way she goes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. So, and then yeah, one more shout out to Strand Dunham. That kid's gonna be a star, man. He smokes them, and he's got that winning attitude. So we're gonna be watching for a lot out of him when we get to the CFR. I think it's gonna be a really tough tight on open, as we all know. You have the big dogs we got going, but plus a lot of good young guys. So gonna be pretty awesome in Edmonton. Barrel racing. Uh, it was a little bit interesting over the weekend, but we won't get into that. But Jackie Ganter picked up some money, jumps into the top 12, which is a big moves for her. And then Lynette Broadway, she does what Lynette Broadway does and sealed her second consecutive uh, season leader in the barrel racing.
Again, that Jackie, I mean, it wasn't big moves, but it was just enough at the right time. And well,
Mm-hmm.
anytime's the right time, but the last weekend of the season is definitely the right time for it. So
Hmm.
again, just placed at Armstrong, Langley, and at the tour finals. Again, you pick up three checks like that over the weekend,
That's
chances
all you
are
need.
good things are gonna
Yeah.
happen for her. And again, Lynette, she just had two checks, but boy, they were big ones. I mean, you win the tour finals there in Armstrong, and then a big check. Gosh, that Langley paid out so much money
Oh man, didn't it?
for the rough stock competitors and the barrel racers. Yeah, it was a real game changer, and again, made that last performance just into something.
Oh, it was fun to watch. We were tuned in on the Cowboy Channel and watching all this stuff happen. And even a guy like Lonnie West, like seeing him get a ride down was really cool. And we'll talk about Lonnie here in a little bit. But anyways, yeah, it was awesome. So hats off to the crew over there in Langley for making a sweet rodeo happen. I think that takes us to the team rope in Clay. So not a huge surprise. Jeremy Bueller held on to his season leader title after picking up. I think they placed all three steers that you have here. So they won a bunch of money. Trey Galley solidified his spot in the CFR, and those guys are going to be tough to beat, man. In Edmonton, they got something going, and they just seem to be roping everything. And before we move off this point, before I forget, I want to send a shout out to Levi Simpson, who threw probably one of the gnarliest head loops I've seen with my own two eyes in Armstrong. He chucked probably whatever, however long his rope is, like all of it, but the tail of it, and made a slick run. So it was fun watching.
Levi, that was his MO long before that world title is. I can remember guys talking, just saying, you know what, there's nobody else up here at that time when he was young that
Mm-hmm.
can chuck it like that. And I grew up high school rodeoing with Levi, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's so cool to see where his career's taken him. And again, he's made himself another CFR here, and just yeah, but yeah, when you see one of those guys put it
Oh,
all
it's
on the
unreal.
line and hold
That's
on
why he's a
to it,
world
not get
champ,
it
man.
around the
It's
horn.
crazy. One of my favorite
Yeah,
pictures of all time is when Levi and Jeremy won the world. One of the rounds, but it was Levi had the rope out of his hand around the steer's head before he even crossed the barrier. It was like point
yeah,
0.1 seconds on the clock or something. It was insane. So,
yeah. That was an epic picture.
oh my
Yeah,
God,
where
that's
the
one of the
time
best
is
ones of
like
all.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the other side of things, though, Cash Bonnet, Logan Spady. Logan Spady made one of the ranked seal shots of the year, by the way, in the tour finals. That was a good run, and they
Yeah.
made a bunch of money. And then you have here, so Cash jumped into the season leader, passing T McLeod. I didn't even really check the standings because I've been traveling, so I'm kind of behind on
Yeah.
this news. But that's exciting.
It really was. Again, like from Lacrete on, and I had reached out because again, around the Saddlehorn does such a great job on the team roping end of things, and I just asked him, I was like, "You got it figured how much money Cash and Logan have made since the beginning of
Hmm.
August, since Lacrete?" And it was over $13,000 that they made.
Hmm.
And it just, again, they were on the outside before
Hmm.
that. And it's just been a gangbuster month. And they just
Yeah.
capped it off again. Three checks over $2,000 each, made 70 some $100 for the weekend. And yeah, for Cash to go from on the outside to season leader. I mean, again, when you've got Jeremy that got two headers into the CFR that split a bit of his money and left that opportunity open for somebody that's
Yep.
been
Yep.
roping that sharp, and those guys have been winning on both sides of it. I mean, they went down to Ellensburg as well, and so it's just been incredible to see
Yeah.
those two
It's
roping
good.
lately.
I think it's gonna go a bit back, come back, and we'll talk again. We'll talk. We're gonna do a full CFR preview here, but I think we're gonna talk about this a lot. So I think we're gonna see people rolling into the CFR at the top of their game, and the competition's gonna be as good or better than it's ever been. So really pumped for that part of it. Bull riding time. So Ashton Sully, a guy who kind of heated up here through August and in the Labor Day weekend, got himself into the CFR after picking up a second place check at the Tour final, and that was just enough to get him and a small check out of merit too, I guess I should say. But that was enough to leapfrog him into that 12th spot or into the top 12, and we'll be seeing Ashton back for a second CFR. So that was really exciting to watch. I really like Ashton the way he approaches the game. He tries his butt off every time you watch that guy.
And again, I saw it wasn't a big score at
Mm.
Merritt. It was last money there, but every dollar counted.
It
And
does.
in
Yeah.
that bull riding, I mean, I think back to comparing it to when Justin McBride won his first world title.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
was 70 some points hanging
Hanging
on
off
for
the
dear
side.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the bull riding, a score is a score, and you keep your hand closed the longest, get
You're
to
gonna
that
win some
whistle.
money, man.
I give him all the credit for getting there again. He has just rode his tail off
Hmm.
here again, similar to Cash and Logan since Lacrete.
Yeah, it's
Started
great.
the ball rolling that same week, and just we I know that he was one of our guys that we were looking at saying, you know what, let's see if he can get it done, and he did.
Yeah, it was cool, man. And that ride that Ashton made in Armstrong of Tour Finals, that was a honky bull ride. That bull like shot out of there really flat and then got it on, and Ashton tracked him the whole way. So kudos to him. It's good. I'm stoked he made it back. Another guy we can not move on without shouting out is Dakota Butter. He between all the rodeos and the PBR they had in Armstrong on Sunday, he rode like 5 out of 6 bulls or five out of 5 bulls or 6 out of 6 bulls. I can't remember how many it was, but he rode all of them, and he was Dakota Butter of old. So when that guy heats up, all the bull riders really need to watch out. So between the rodeos and the PBR, I think he won over $10,000. So I mean, heck of a weekend for Dakota, and he's one of those guys on the outside of the picture when it comes to the season leader. But watch out in Edmonton, if he gets hot, he could come in the back door and win a Canadian title.
Absolutely. He's been there before. He knows the ins and outs of that game, and
The
it
winner.
doesn't matter if there's one last bull.
Hmm.
He's coming to ride them all. And yeah, he's just really he's in the right place right now and just seems to
He's
be on
healthy.
a
He's
roll.
riding good.
Oh,
Man, that ride that he made on Devil's Advocate was like hands down the best ride of the year. Like I wish I could have seen it in person because the video
oh,
like is a rank as hell, and usually like a video kind of takes the take doesn't do it full on justice. But that was if you look, it's funny. I was talking about this with somebody, and if you look at Dakota, he's making it look so easy on that bull. But that bull, if you look at the bull, he's bucking. So I mean, Dakota's dialed in.
there's no doubt there. Again, that I thought, yeah, it was a cool ride. Absolutely. Any of them devil bulls these days are
They're
just
scary
they're bringing, yeah, they're bringing the heat, and he's not scared, and he's not backing down. So it's great.
for sure. Okay, so we don't have any notes in the novice, but you do have something noted down here that I want to know the story behind it, Clay. So let her buck.
So again, with Merritt was the only rodeo that had steer riding this weekend, and it reminded me of driving out to Merritt as a steer rider myself. And it was more so because my traveling partner at the time was in the fight for the CFR and the steer ride, and we went out there, and I can remember the drive home was awful because the heat quit working. And I mean, we're
Oh,
driving through the mountains, and it was this little old car. And I think we had planned on driving the whole night, but we couldn't do it. Us skinny little steer riders weren't going to survive that
no,
trip. So
no.
we had to stay at a hotel. But the other thing I remember from that rodeo was during the wild cow milking, and I know that some of the locals of Merritt have told me the name of the guy because they remembered it as well.
Mhm.
But he was, again, you got to rope that cow on the horse, and he went to do that and must have got his hand stuck in there because he lost a few fingers. And
Yeah.
I
Oh,
still remember them walking out there and finding him in the arena and picking him up and taking him
damn.
out, and it was just
What
like,
the hell?
holy cow, that's yeah. And I don't even know how much money would have been up in the wild cow
Not
milking, but
worth
that's
losing some
bad
fingers.
day.
Yeah, no
No.
doubt. Damn. Well, that's crazy, man. Cool, Clay. Well, we got Dennis Halstead coming at you for an interview this week. It was really fun to sit down with Denny. We played around a golf in Armstrong and got to catch up. And he's a legend in our sport, and he likes talking, so he's a perfect guest for the show. And we'll throw it there, and we'll be right back here after this. All right, welcome back to the Short Round Podcast, everyone. I'm here. I'm stoked to be joined by the 10-time Canadian Pro Rodeo Entertainer of the Year, Dennis Halstead. Denny, we're here in Armstrong. We just finished a round of golf. How's things going, man? It was great.
Hey, it doesn't get any better than this, buddy. A round of golf in the morning, best rodeo in Canada at night. Days don't get better than
That's
this.
beautiful. The weather's been great. The rodeo's been great so far. We're heading into the Friday night performance, but I've been meaning to do this with you for a long time. It's kind of a surreal feeling because I remember growing up around rodeo in Canada and seeing you in Kindersley, Saskatchewan, everywhere since I was a little bitty
I
kid.
probably
And
put you on your first
yeah,
sheet. That's
yeah,
what
probably,
everybody
yeah,
says.
100%, right? So now that we've been colleagues now, working, I've done sound with you at rodeos all over Canada, and we get to hang out. And I'm just glad to call you my friend. Is where I was going with that.
Exactly.
So this is really cool. So thanks for taking the time with me, and we're gonna have some fun today.
You know, buddy, I've always said I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. This is my 30th full-time year, and you know what? I've been very fortunate to have a 30-year career, which not many guys get. But I don't think you can put a price tag on the friends and the family and what our sport means. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't see the behind-the-scenes stuff,
Right, right.
but at the end, when it's all over, it's those friendships and stuff that you have
100%.
that are the priceless part of our sport.
It's funny you bring that up. We were talking about kind of that whole essence as we were golfing out there today, it's kind of funny we're in Armstrong because this was one of the places where you've been part of for so long, and you talk about those friends. So, what has it meant to you to be part of some of the biggest rodeos in Canada from the very beginning, or as long as you have?
Yeah, you know what? I've been, like I said, it's almost surreal to get to work a show like Armstrong. And I'll be honest with you, I don't, in my business, everybody has their own style, but I try to go no more than 2 and 3 years. That's kind of my thing. But when you have an opportunity to work shows like this in Armstrong, like I've been here 15 years probably now. So, you know what? You just don't turn these down. And the thing is, they're so fun to work. The committee's so good to work for. And I love production. And it's, you know, that's what the big part of this is. It's the production of the
Oh
show.
yeah,
You don't get many shows like this. I always said this is our closest that we have to Caldwell, Idaho,
right.
is Armstrong. If
Oh,
you've ever been
it's
to
awesome.
Caldwell, it's probably one of the wildest crowds in rodeo.
Well, I always say it's got to be one of the most underrated rodeos in Canada, but it's not at the same time. It's huge. It's the SMS Tour Finals are here. You get some of the best competitors in the world coming through, but if you haven't been here, you don't really know how awesome it is,
It's you
hey?
know what this is a very unique show. I mean, there's Ponoka, Strathmore, and sure, they get big crowds and stuff, but they don't have the energy this crowd has.
Right.
This crowd is electric.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, right from the time we start to the time we buck that last bull,
Yeah.
this crowd is hooked. And there isn't a person, you can look up in those stands.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, the shows get longer. Our shows, 2 hours, 15 minutes, they're done. People want more.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's the secret to our sport is you got to have people wanting more. And that's why we fill this stadium every night with 8,000 people.
Well, I think one thing that gets overlooked with BC is like kind of gets associated with maybe not as many rodeo fans or educated rodeo fans out here, but they like people in Armstrong know what's going on. Like they're like a pretty good group of them, I would
BC's
say.
a little different than
Yeah,
Alberta. Alberta's very educated.
yeah, yeah.
BC's a party crowd. These people come to this fair for the weekend. They
Yeah.
come to let their hair down, sing, have fun, and that's why that crowd interaction, which I
Oh, it's
love
awesome.
using the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, they get right into it because it's not, like you said, they don't have the education that an Alberta crowd has.
Right.
They're here to have fun.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. You touched on production there, and that's something I want to talk to you about. I just had Dave Paulson on for the last episode and talking about how it changed throughout his career, but I want to know through your lens how much has production changed in rodeo, and helped make your job easier, make your job better? What like how are those pieces played
Actually,
apart?
there's two aspects to that, to be honest. The sport's changed in the fact that, I'll be honest with you, I do more work now than I ever have. Because, sometimes, we've been short on cowboys at certain things. You only get 3 bareback riders and 4 bulls at a rodeo. Well, your rodeo clown's got to work harder to entertain that crowd. But I think the biggest thing I've seen in the change in our sport in 30 years is we're not a rodeo anymore. I think people need to get away from the mentality of that we're just a rodeo. We are an entertainment package. It's the adrenaline of our sport. It's the comedy of me. It's the crowd interaction of the singing. It's the music. It's an entertainment package, and I think that's what people come on. That's why we draw not just Western people. And I always said, COVID hurt our sport definitely. It definitely hurt our whole economy, hurt everything. But in a way, it helped us.
Yeah.
And a good example is I just went to Cranbrook here a couple weeks ago before I went back south. Cranbrook has struggled for so many years. That's a tough little rodeo.
Yeah.
But they're setting record crowds. And I think what happened through COVID was people started supporting their local communities more. So people that had never gone to Cranbrook went to Cranbrook after COVID because it was supporting their community and walked out of there going, hey man, that was fun.
Yeah.
Shit, we got to go back to that, right?
Yeah.
And they come back, but they bring friends. And now this year they set a record crowd.
Yeah.
So I think COVID hurt us, but in some ways, if you look at our crowds, they're over the top.
Oh, yeah.
But it's because people are supporting their local community and they've never gone before. Now they've come to a rodeo and they're going, hey, that is a fun time. And if you look at the price of, it's $100 a person to go to a hockey game or baseball or football.
100%, yeah.
It's $20, $30 to go to rodeo. So family-wise, we are still very affordable to family entertainment, which you don't find in many professional sports.
No, 100%. Like there's so many different things that play into that, and like you say, COVID. You look at rodeos like Falkland, like Sundry. All these rodeos are smashing it out, but it's a family-friendly activity, right? Like, I think people are craving that more than ever. And you look at the way how westerns become cool within pop culture, right? Like, you've even seen it. You told me the story about meeting Jason Momoa in the States. Like, everybody wants to be a cowboy right now, right?
What I did, like I said, I just had a guy. I was just telling you, I had a guy come up to me in Livingston, which is a big rodeo. Security's very tight behind the sheets. You just don't get. And I seen this guy. And he kind of looked like a bum to me. I didn't know. Ponytail, camouflage hat, khaki shorts, sandals. And so the guy came over before the boat ride and just told me that he really enjoyed what I did and asked where I was in Canada, told me he loved Canada and just kind of talked to me for about 10 minutes. And then I found out it was Jason Momoa I was talking to, the most popular movie star ever. But to me, he was just a normal guy.
Right.
And I got to give him credit. He was a super guy. Like, I would have never in a million years guessed that this guy is who he was.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
My wife was upset after, very upset that she didn't get to meet him because I didn't know who he was.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, and so part of this whole thing is bringing new fans to rodeo. And you know as well as everybody, that's been a challenge like for years with rodeo. But kind of, you say COVID opened the door, Western's cool and pop culture right now, but how are we going to be able to keep these people as longtime rodeo fans in your opinion? Tough question.
No, you know what? I tell you, one of my biggest bitch that I have with our sport is we don't do enough for the youth of our sport. We really don't. The kids are their future. And, whether it's starting in mutton busting or steer riding or roping, but I think as a general rodeo body in Canada, CPRA, Calgary Stampede, Pinoca, the bigger shows, I think we need to step more up to the plate with those and start putting on these schools for kids. And because, you look at Calgary, there's 1.7 million people in Calgary, there's 1.4 million people in Edmonton. Well, total that up, that's 2.5 million people. You can't tell me there's a bunch of kids that don't want to be cowboys and cowgirls.
Right.
But they don't know where to go. They don't have a place to go. And you know what? And we need something that's very fun. Like, I know they just had, I wasn't there, but I've just heard very good reports about this rodeo school they just had in Strathmore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? And I heard it was great. I heard the horses they had for the kids in the bareback, because that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have stuff that suits these kids to start so you don't hurt them.
Yeah.
And I heard the school was awesome. So I think we need to do more if we're going to increase our sport, because the thing we have is if you have a kid, if your buddy all of a sudden starts going out and he's a steer rider, you're going, hey, man, that's pretty cool. I should try that.
Yeah.
Or if you don't, you want to go see him. So that's how we create that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's something we need to do more for our kids.
100%. Well, like you say, it's the future. And I think people are starting to take note of that. You say like that thing in Strathmore, there's more schools popping up. But I definitely think that's like you say, kids are the future. So you mentioned 30 years in the sport. You've been able to carve out a cool career. We're talking about that in the golf cart too, just how fortunate we are to be able to make a living in something we love so much. But talk a bit, like, what has been some of your favorite moments in those 30 years, whether it be people, places, things that happen, that kind of stuff?
Buddy, I've got so many, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everything for me is, one thing for me is, a lot of people don't know my side, but I was a full-time Calgary firefighter for 30 years. Fire hall I worked at, we did over 5,000 calls. I went to a shooting and stabbing every day. And I've seen stuff with kids and people that people couldn't imagine.
Right.
For that, that has kept me grounded. So to say I have one memorable thing, I just appreciate so much. Like, you know, I'm going back this year for my 7th year to Sydney, Australia, to one of the biggest outdoor shows in the world.
Yeah.
30,000 people a night. I step in that arena 8 nights, and it's almost surreal that I get to be the
It's
person
cool,
that gets
hey?
to work this show.
Yeah.
The first time I got a call from the Wrangler National Finals, you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah,
It was, you
yeah.
know, it was almost surreal that they were calling me, right? So Canadian Finals, first time I did Canadian Finals. So just there's been so many, but you know, it's I don't think you can define it as one thing.
Yeah.
I'm just fortunate to have a career that I've had so much,
Yeah.
right? So, and it just keeps coming.
Yeah, it's cool. But you say you're booked up 2-3 years in advance now. It's pretty
Yeah.
great. There's a big demand for what you do. Look, and I think again another thing we were talking about, like it's not just going in the arena and being funny and doing acts. Like, you're a vital piece of the show.
Well, you know, people I think are a little naive to my, and
Yeah,
it's understandable.
for sure, yeah.
You know, I still get people asking me if I do birthdays in the off season. Like, seriously. But that's part of it. But
Yeah.
the thing is, people are naive to my business too. You know, they just think I go out there and have fun and comment. They don't realize I'm a step ahead of my, like when I wake up in the morning on my performance days, my head is in performing time. Like I'm going through what I got to do, get stuff ready
Yeah.
for the night. I kind of put a little bit of a thing that I want to use, maybe some comedy. I try to do a different show every night.
Right.
So I want to try to use jokes that I didn't use the night before. So, you know, you're putting all that in. And then once you step in the arena, all that shit can go south in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
Like last night
We
was
saw
a
it,
good
yeah.
example, right?
Yep.
In the steer wrestling, right? So all of a sudden, bang, you have to go to work. So
Yeah.
people don't realize it's high adrenaline for me, and I'm on the go, and I'm thinking 3 steps ahead of myself all the time.
Right.
But something like this show, especially, something that makes it so much fun and easier is when you work with a guy like Brett Gardner.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
12 cheese with
have that
13 time
chemistry.
for a reason.
Yeah,
That guy.
and you know, we work together now. We worked a lot, so we kind of know each other
Yeah.
and how we work, and you know how to help each other and stuff. And the chemistry is awesome.
Right.
So you know, my show. I always said my show isn't good without a good announcer.
Right.
It's teamwork, right? And it's all of us. So
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine now, and that kind of goes back to that production point we are talking about. But I want to bring up Liesl Harris. We were telling how
Yes.
he's a big influence, and you mentioned having a new axe every day, and he was kind of that big push for you. So talk about his influence on your career. And
I
what
would
it's meant.
never, ever be where I am if
Yeah.
it wasn't for Liesl Harris. I worked 8 years with how it started was, back it up a bit. Winston Bruce was probably one of the biggest promoters of rodeo there was, and he was a very intelligent man when
Yeah.
it came to the education of rodeo. I worked 8 years with Liesl Harris at the Calgary Stampede. Every year, Winston would put me with Liesl. Now that I look back on the whole process of what happened, Winston was very influential on me, telling me to get my pro card. He was very influential on where I went in my career, but because he knew I needed somebody, there wasn't anybody in Canada that could help me. He knew that Liesl Harris could be the guy that could take me to that next step.
Right.
He put me with Liesl for 8 years to help me, educate me to go down south. And that's exactly what happened.
Right.
I worked with Liesl. We developed a friendship that was phenomenal. He became my
Yeah.
mentor. And I would never be where I am. But it was Winston Bruce that had the eye to know that I needed somebody to help me to go to that next step. And he put Liesl with me, and we developed a friendship, and away we went.
So what were some of the things early on that he was telling you to do, or like what
You know,
kind of helped?
He would say stuff that he was always giving advice.
Right.
If Liesl loved you, he loved you.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
I said, he took such good care of me. When I got the NFR the first year, the first phone call I got was from him.
Oh,
And
awesome.
he said to me, I'll never forget this as long as I live, Wacey. He said, I just want to tell you, he says, I'm so proud that I am a small part of
Yeah.
your success. And I said, Lisa, you're not a small part. You are my success. I said, I would never be here if it wasn't for you. I said, you have given me the encouragement and the foresight to see, to work the business,
Yeah.
to know the business, and to treat it like a business. And one of the biggest things he ever said to me, and it was just out of a conversation like you and I have, he said to me, he goes, one thing you got to remember, he says, you only spend 20% of time in that arena. 80% is spent outside the arena. How you dictate your business outside the arena is your career. Lots of guys know how to do the 20 in the arena. They can't handle the business outside. And it kills them.
Yeah.
And he was 100% right.
Oh.
And he always told me never get involved in politics.
Yeah.
And I've tried to stay, and that's why I've had a 30-year career. I've tried to stay. I mean,
Yeah.
there's certain things. It's
It
not.
co- it comes to you
you're going to
sometimes,
get
right?
it. But
Yeah.
generally, I try to stay out of the politics. I don't care what people charge. I don't care what other rodeos. That's just me.
Yeah.
I stay in my own lane, and I just do my own thing.
Well, and it's all comes down to how you make people feel, and I find that makes more important than any work you do in the arena or anything, even for the general fans. I like to use my girlfriend as the gauge of like how things work in rodeo, because she's not a traditional rodeo person. She just grew up coming to the IPE, but they grew up with it's the same story for me. They grew up watching you in the arena, and they could they love, that's like one of their favorite parts of the whole show. So it's cool to know that you can leave that type of lasting impression on
The
somebody.
biggest compliment I get, kid. I mean, you always get after when you're in makeup. People
Yeah.
always come, "Hey, I love your show." Love
Yeah,
your show.
yeah,
The biggest compliment I get is when people come back and go, "My kid adores you,"
yeah.
or stuff. And I tell you, I just had a great story. I had a lady come up to me and never seen her before in my life. Come walking up to me. She goes, "You owe me $55." I said, "I owe you 50." I said, "Why do I owe you $55?" Like I said, never seen her before.
Yeah.
She goes, "Well, we bought our little son, who's 5 years old, a new cowboy hat yesterday." I said, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Last night when you do your hat flipping thing, it didn't go on your head and you kicked the snot out of your hat." So her kid went home, tried to flip the hat on his head, a straw, didn't work, and he
Oh,
stomped his brand new hat. So, but I tell you, what a story.
it's cool, man.
And
Yeah.
like I said, actually, to be honest, ma'am, I said, "I think I owe you $55.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that, right?
Oh, man,
Those are
that's cool.
stories that are priceless, right?
Yeah, that's
But to know you've left an influence, I think today too, if you look at just today's world and society, I think there's so much peer pressure on kids. I have a lot of kids that hang around my trailer around
Yeah,
me and
yeah.
stuff, and like the Vol kids and different kids. I think they don't look at me as an adult. I'm a big kid,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I can be on their level.
Right.
But at the same time, they accept me for that,
Yeah.
right? And I like that I have that influence on them.
Yeah.
That they can trust. They can tell me anything, right?
Totally.
So yeah, I think that, and that's again the biggest compliment you can get in your sport.
100%, for sure. So 30 years. How have you been able to keep up with everything and evolve and grow and keep doing
Crown
what you
Royal,
do so
ibuprofen, and Tylenol threes. Tell you what, dude, the check engine light's on, and I'm just ignoring
Just
it.
keep on rolling.
I'm just ignoring it.
Yeah.
So now, you know what? I've always said, but I don't, of course now, because I just turned 65, I don't
Right.
hold it back. And people say, "So are you going to retire?" I love what I do.
Yeah.
And as long as I can take a hit in the barrel and I can still do my show like I did last time, and it's high energy, I can still do it, I'll do it. And getting back to Liesl Harris. Liesl Harris wrote a book. And if you ever get a chance, read his story. It is the coolest book. He won an award on the Western culture
Yeah.
for it. Anyways, he was writing his next book. Because he won an award for this, they wanted a second book, so he's writing a second book. He wrote the ending to his book. The secret to Liesl Harris was timing. If you look at me, one of my secrets to my show is timing. I know my timing. I know when to put a 30-second spot and not a 2-minute spot and
Yeah.
a 30-second.
Yeah.
Timing was the secret to Liesl Harris's. Liesl Harris worked his last performance, went to a hotel room, and passed away.
Wow.
He wrote the book, the ending to his book.
Yeah.
It was timing.
Yeah.
He lived his dream to the very end.
That's cool.
And I'm going to be honest, buddy, if that happened to me, I'd be the happiest person in the whole world.
Well, that's the thing. People don't get to do that. Like that's the way the world is such a crazy place. So you we'll even look at hockey news, but like Johnny Gaudreau, like what happened to him, like that's awful. But like the world, your life is so short and it's fleeting. And if you can do it on your own terms, it's a pretty lucky person.
You know what? It's a gift. You got a gift. And like I said, life's so short. I live by two things. Age is only a number and tomorrow's never promised. I live by those two things every day. And that's right since I was a firefighter, right? I've just seen what I saw, right?
Right.
So like I said, for me, people always say that. And the thing is, when I've never been in this, I've been very successful and I've made a lot of money in this business. It's never been about the money. It's my passion. I live to entertain.
Yeah.
If you know me outside of rodeo, I'm a comedian just outside.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. That's
Yeah.
my personality. So I live to, when you're doing what you love to do, you never work a day in your life. And I have never, from firefighting, I had the best job in the world, to rodeo. I've never had to work. But I tell you, I remember Ross Hill. I don't remember Ross Hill.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
He was crazy.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to tell you. Ross Hill, he was a bullfighter from
Yeah.
Alabama. I mean, crazy. This guy was nuts, but just a great kid and a great bullfighter. And I saw him one time. We were at a rodeo, and there was a news guy interviewing him. And I heard him say, just kind of overhearing a conversation, and he said, the most addictive drug in the world is rodeo. He says, once it's in your body, it's
Can't
not
leave.
coming out. And he says, there's no rehab. And he's right.
It's true, yeah.
It's hard to explain to people
Yeah.
when you get to live this lifestyle and it gets to be where it's your living and your passion,
yeah.
it don't leave.
No.
So, none of us want to leave it. I know there's going to be a day someday that I might have to,
Right.
just because of just your age and stuff. But right now, I haven't got a plan of that whatsoever. I'm having balls to the wall, and I'm having fun every day.
Oh, that's awesome. So what were some of the inspirations you drew off of Liesl when it comes to developing your acts or your comedy, that kind of stuff? Like just going back to that.
Timing.
It's all the time.
That's what Liesl is.
Yeah.
Liesl is so much about timing. And then, too, if you watch my show, I try to do a different show every
Yeah,
night.
100%.
So, somebody will go and say, hey, did you hear that joke? Well, no, he did something else the next night,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's a secret is you got to keep it. And again, I don't judge anybody. Everybody has their own style. But a lot of guys do the same act, same jokes every night. So I don't want somebody on the fourth night going, hey, I know what that guy's going to say, right?
Yeah.
I want it to be a surprise to all of them. So that's kind of, for me, that's just kind of my style.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing, but for me, I like to, and it keeps it fresh for me. Like, my bathtub act I'm going to do here tomorrow night. Everybody wants to see the bathtub act, right? Well, if I did that every day,
It gets old.
yeah. Plus, my asshole goes right through my eyeballs because I got no suspension. So
Yeah.
now I can't handle that. I couldn't do the bathtub every night.
Yeah. So what is that? Is that something now that you have to be a bit more mindful of as you're getting older? Some of the acts that you're dialing it back a little bit on, or
No,
how
you know
are
what,
you?
kid? I got to be honest. I think I'm 21. Like my motorbike act. I
you
jump on
rip
that
it,
bike.
man.
I think
It's
I'm
cool.
21 years old.
Yeah.
So it's and adrenaline is a
Yeah.
funny thing, boy. Adrenaline takes over with stuff and that.
Yeah.
I find the biggest for me now is after performance. I get pretty, like, here is a perfect example because at night it's hot during the day and it
Oh,
cools
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys see me in the mornings. I get pretty stiff and stuff getting out of bed and stuff. But again, that's nature. 30 years of doing what I do.
100%, yeah.
And I've taken a lot of hits in that barrel over 30 years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it takes its toll.
What can you think of any like fun times that you tried a new act and maybe didn't go to plan, or one that like something like that really sticks out, a story that you can?
Actually, I'll tell you a good story.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was in Sundry one year and I had a act with an emu. I still got the emu at home. I kid you not. Emu is 35 years old. I kid you not. This is true story. That emu is 35 years old.
Yeah.
He ain't dead yet. I'm figuring, what the hell? This thing's 35 years old.
Yeah.
Like, how can he live this long?
Yeah.
Emus can live to be 70 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't
so I
know
have
that.
an emu at home. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyways, I had this act with this emu. And long story short, it was like a coffee table with a box with mirrors built on an angle. So it looked, when you saw from the crowd, it looked like a coffee table because it reflected the ground.
Yeah.
So it looked like it went straight through.
Yeah.
Emu would come out at the end. Anyways, I'm in Sundry. I did the act. Take it back to the trailer. I'm back in the arena doing my thing. And Joe Braniff says to me, he goes, "Hey, I think your bird's out." And I'm thinking, yeah, he's just shitting
Yeah,
with me.
yeah,
He's pulling my leg, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because if that bird gets out, you don't catch an emu. They're gone.
They're gone forever.
Yeah.
Especially in Sundry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, a guy rides or next ride goes or whatever, and he goes, "Hey, man," he says, "I think that bird's causing some havoc over there." So I'm thinking, that son of a bitch might be right. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
So I stood up on the fence. I looked over, and sure enough, here's that emu out. Kids got in my trailer and let him out.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know Sundry, but where it goes across the racetrack,
Yep.
and then right as you go across the racetrack on the left-hand side is the beer gardens.
Yep.
Stupidest thing I ever said in my entire life, Wacey. I said, $20 for the first person that catches the emu. Just then, it went across the track and it hung left into the beer gardens.
Yeah.
Well, I got there. I humped over that fence because I know it's going to be, because they
gonna
got
be a
three
wreck.
big claws.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they'll claw the shit out of
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah.
right? So I got over that fence and I am just giving her to that beer gardens. And there's a guy on the back of the emu, and I grabbed this guy by the back of the collar, and I choked his ass. I had his collar just choking him. And he turns around and he goes, "I'm here to help you. I'm the vet. I know how to work. I'm the vet." I choked out the vet. Anyways, the guy said, "Sorry, buddy." He goes, "Listen, I'm used to working," because you have to grab him from behind.
Yeah.
So anyways, he helped me get it back to the trailer. I'm going, "Man, I apologize."
Oh, man.
Anyways, every year I went to Sundry after that, he would always come by and go, "Hey, don't choke me out
Don't
this
choke me
year."
out. Yeah,
but anyways,
I promise.
but I was choking the vet out 'cause I thought he was,
Oh,
and
man.
there was feathers flying everywhere.
That's awesome.
But anyways, yeah. So the poor vet, I choked him out.
That's awesome. So the next thing I want to talk about, part of your job, you have the best seat in the house. You're watching the best rodeo athletes, the best stock in the world compete. What are some of the rides or runs or those types of moments that stick out in your mind that you've been able to have a front row seat for?
Bull getting his head stuck in my barrel with me in it. That's one I'll never forget. Like, for my ride.
Yeah.
You know what? There's, again, I've seen so much. I've seen so many. Down south, I travel with Powder River. So, and we got D&H bulls and Powder River horses. So we got the best,
Best of the best.
Two-Butt Chuck right now, one of the best horses in the world, right? Plus D&H bulls. So, some of the rides I see, 90, 92.
It's crazy.
You see these amazing rides. So, I just think the biggest thing is I've seen cowboys have changed over the years. It's a business now more.
Right.
It's not some more the drunk fighting kind of wild. Sure, we still have a wild side to our
Yeah,
sport.
yeah.
But I think guys are a lot more into the physical fitness, taking care of themselves, and it's a business to them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that part of it, I've seen the biggest change with it and stuff. So of course, with that, now you're getting better cowboys, so the rides
Oh,
are bigger.
yeah.
You're seeing the 90-point rides more and stuff, 80, especially in the horse events, right? You're seeing those high 80s and 90s now, where you didn't see them as much before.
And you talked about Winston earlier, and it's kind of plays in well with this we have a huge wave of Canadian saddle bronc riders kicking ass right now, and Winston's a huge influence on probably all of them. But how has that been cool? How has that been like to watch that evolve over the years?
Tell you
too?
what.
And we've had lots over the
cannot have-
years.
I'll tell you what, I've been at 30 years. I've
Yeah.
seen different groups go through.
Yeah.
This is the best group of bronc riders, talent-wise, we have ever had.
It's amazing.
But not only that, when I just talked about the 20 and 80% outside the arena, those kids are outside the
Oh
arena.
my
Those kids
God.
are fantastic.
It's crazy.
And they promote our sport. But you know what? More than what people don't see here It's how they represent Canada down south.
Yeah.
They look at us in Canada a whole lot different right now because of them 7 bronc riders.
Oh my gosh.
Big time.
Yeah.
The thing that we need in Canada right now is we need bareback riders.
Yes.
Our sport is suffering big time with bareback. We got kids now that want to be bronc riders because of those kids.
Those guys,
And
yeah.
you know, it goes back to what we talked about, kids, rodeo school,
Yes,
stuff like that, getting that
yes.
sport. Those bronc riders have promoted so much, and that's why we've got kids right
amazing.
now that all want to be bronc riders
Yeah.
because of them. So what we need right now is we need a good group of bareback, and we've got some great bareback riders in Canada, but we need to get a group like that to make it more.
You mentioned representing Canada in the U.S., and that's another thing we had the golf cart conversations. But like how it's for, especially for you in your space, like there's only so many rodeos, and there's lots of people doing the job. But how has being a Canadian kind of helped you / hindered you along throughout your career? Like,
I think you gotta be honest on these kind of things, but I'll be honest.
For sure.
I think being a Canadian in America, it's tough.
It's tough,
There's
for
no
sure.
question. It would be no different if the Americans were here, right? It's and I'll tell you what, sitting in the top with the top guys that I sit with, those guys are fantastic to
Yeah.
me. They respect me and stuff like that. But it's also when a rodeo has a chance to hire a big name American fella and a big name Canadian fella, they'll go to the American fella, which is natural. And I've been 100% acceptive of it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, those guys have helped me. You know, they've had rodeos phone them and go, hey, you know, I'm booked, but hey, call this guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've helped me that way. But it's definitely, it's part of it. But it's no different than, I hate to say it, but you look at some of the judging, you know, you see some of these young kids. Well, I'll tell you, our group of bronc riders is a perfect example. When those kids first started going down there, the Hay Boys and all them, want to chuck all those kids.
oh yeah,
You know, their scores were 81, 82.
they had to pay their dues big
They
time.
paid their
man.
dues. But
Yeah.
you know what? You look now, those kids, they're recognized, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that is, and that's
Same.
just part of the business, right? That part is never going to change in our sport.
Right. Well, and so you've got to work some of the biggest rodeos in the U.S. What was it like when you got your first one down there? Was it kind of, did it open up more doors? And people were like, actually, hey, this guy can hang with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
What was your first one down there? Do you remember?
Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Going to Salt Lake was pretty cool and
Yeah.
stuff. But you know, it's the thing is for me is it's an honor to work them like Reno and Salt Lake and stuff like that. But for me, I love small town America.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
down south, I love small town America.
Yeah, it's
Like,
fun down
boy,
there.
I'll tell you what, and we miss production in Canada, but boy, I'll tell you what, the way you get treated and the way they run some of them rodeos down there, they're incredible.
Yeah.
But it's just there's so much more relaxed from my end, right? Where the bigger shows, it's you know it's very timed. You know, we got a 30-second hole here you need to fill. We got 2 minutes hold second here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's just all so production. Where the small town America, it's just go out and have fun.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we hired you because you know what
Know
you're
what
doing.
you're doing.
You fill what we need to fill.
Yeah.
Right. So it's two different. The pressure is a lot different than that. But any of those ones like Reno, like I mean, that was always a bucket list.
Oh, it's cool, man.
To me, the greatest rodeo for me that I work. Everybody has a different opinion, but for me, the one that I worked that will stand out from my career is getting to go to Pendleton a couple times.
Oh, so cool.
Pendleton, it's. I tell people, you know, people say, "What's the best rodeo to go to?" I said, "The Calgary Stampede is a show.
Yeah.
Pendleton's a rodeo.
Rodeo,
Like,
yeah.
If you want to see a rodeo, go to Pendleton."
Oh, that's cool. Like you can't beat setting there with all the bronc riders sitting in a semicircle around in the
whole thing.
grass.
Oh no, for me it's a PV set.
That's crazy.
During the bull ride.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the last year I was there, that's when the bull hit that fence. Photographer ran up to pick that fence up. Bull looked at him and it did smoke that son of a bitch.
Man.
But I'll tell you what, sells tickets. I don't care who you
That's
are.
yeah,
That
that's
shit
yeah. Some
sells
people
tickets.
getting run over, man.
That
It's
sells tickets.
crazy.
But no, it's neat. The old wooden buck and shoots. Like I remember
man.
the last year I was there too. A bull hooked one of the old wooden gates off and bucked spun right on top of the gate. Right on top of the gate. The guy was like 87 and a half or
Wow.
something. But yeah, but he bucked on top of the gate.
Yeah. So you've got to work all these amazing rodeos. You've been to Australia, all over Canada, all over the U.S. Is there anything left on your bucket list on the rodeo side, or have you been able to check most of that off?
You know what? But I mean, of course, to roll the barrel out the NFR is definitely the one that
For sure.
That's the only thing I haven't done.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been fortunate to be the alternate a couple of times, but for me, that would be the one thing I haven't. But you know what? But if my career ended tomorrow, I have been very successful. I've had one of the most successful careers as a rodeo clown in Canada. I can't bitch. There's nothing else I can do. So for me, I look at a lot of my bookings now. I try to go to places that I've done that I have had fun.
Yeah.
And that I haven't been to for a while. And you know, as we were talking on the golf course too, for me, I never forgot where I come from. That was very important to me, was never forget where I come from. And that's why I like the WRA finals. The Smith family was so good to me over the years, and I would do anything for that family. And they promote rodeo so hard that for me, if they want to have me and I can help their finals, I don't even have a price tag with them. Whatever they pay me. Which some guys in our business get upset about, but that's my way of giving back to my sport.
100%.
Right? So, and I think a lot of guys forget that. But if I can take and my show can make their show better at those amateur finals,
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to give it back to my sport. And I always said I would never forget where I come from, and that's why I go back like CCA finals, WRA
Yeah.
finals, any of those finals I can help them if they want me. I'll go there in a second.
You may as well, right?
But I do
Well,
not charge what I charge on the main circuit.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's how you get that growth at the end of the day. Okay, so somebody listening to this or comes across this somewhere and they want to become a rodeo clown or get involved in the rodeo entertaining side of things, what advice would you give somebody trying to
Phone me.
That's,
Well, you know
yeah,
what? I'll
it's
tell you what,
true,
but
though,
I'll be
right?
honest with you. Yeah. So when I started, the biggest thing I had when I started was there was nobody.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, the old group that was around, like Kelly and Ernie and all those guys, they didn't want a new kid on the block, and I was the
No.
young guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I know how that feels because I got all them young guys down south now. I am the old guy coming up, so I have all those young guys.
Yeah.
But the one thing is, I never had anybody to help me, and that's one other thing that I've always through my career have done. I said I will never turn anybody who wants to be a rodeo clown can call me. I will try to help every person I can. The thing that a lot of people don't understand, it's a gift. I don't know what my parents
Can't
did.
force it.
My parents didn't put a lot of effort into this. College was not an option. But whatever they did for me, it's like I said, it's just there's nobody to help. So if I can help somebody, they may not have the talent, but I will never turn them down.
Right, yeah,
I can give you the basics and try to help you and let you come and hang with
Get
me
you
for a day,
started.
see what I do. You have to go out and try it on your own. You can be successful, some won't.
Yep.
But I will never say, hey, you're not going to be a rodeo. You
No.
can't make it. I'll tell you, and a perfect example is I remember seeing Zeke Thurston when he started first riding.
Yeah.
Clay Elliott, both of them. And I thought, boys, you get into race car driving, you're going to get killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zeke's a 4-time world champion.
Yeah. And Clay probably would have been a world champ had he not got
So
hurt, right?
you know what?
And he's
There-
Canadian champion.
and that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
You'd never know what talent a kid has. So like I said, I'll help somebody. They need to go after that and find out whether they can do something for them. But I'll never turn anybody down.
Well, okay, I want to jump back. Probably should have started here, but my mind works. a million
Welcome to
miles
my
an hour.
world.
Yeah,
Welcome to my
yeah,
world.
exactly. Yeah,
Squirrel.
So, yeah, yeah. But I want to go back to the beginning. So, how did you get your start in rodeo? Was that like, were you always around it, or just
I have
like?
the most unique story.
Yeah, I
in the
want to
world.
hear it.
So of course, I was an ex-hockey player, and I got on the fire department when I was 20 years old. I was very lucky to get on because they didn't hire 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So got on the fire department. I was actually roping calves. I was a calf roper.
Okay.
And rodeoing and stuff, and that's how I come across the Smith family. Leonard Smith, old Leonard,
Yep.
was roping, and I wasn't very good, so he would always come and help me and give me advice and try this and do stuff. So, anyways, I was roping calves, and I was a firefighter. And every year, the Calgary Police and Calgary Fire put on a charity rodeo for kids.
Right.
So they had a big name scheduled to fight Bulls and Clown it, and a week before he backed out. And I just happened to be at the meet, and I said, "Shit, I'll do it." I said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah.
Why
I'll do
not?
it."
Yeah.
So I didn't care. I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
So I went out and I fought Bulls and Clowned it. And Alan Gerlitz came up to me after that and goes, "Hey, I got these convention rodeos. Would you like to come work them?" Shit, yeah, I'll go do it.
Why
for you."
not? Yeah.
So I went and did a couple for him. And anyways, then I started to learn I was getting some money, and it paid my entry fees as a tie-down roper because I was a shitty tie-down roper. But that's why I can rope with an extension cord now in the arena.
Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, so then I started fooling around. I did a couple rodeos, and for about 5 years I just fooled around, and then I decided I would try.
Yeah.
Because everybody kept trying to book me, so I put an advertisement out, and that was 30 years ago, and I haven't looked back yet.
Wow.
And it gave me enough to leave while I got my retirement out of my firefighting. But it was all because of the fire department that I started.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah,
so cool,
yeah.
man. That's awesome.
And now here I am 30 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, just being able to, you almost like just took a chance on it and found your spot.
Well, you
eh?
know what? And now that I've done it and where I am in my career, I have a gift. I really do. I don't. You know what? Everybody looks at certain things a certain way. I look at it totally different, but that's the gift I have, right? And like I said, even if you know me outside an arena, that's my personality. I'm very happy,
Yeah.
lucky, fun, make people smile. I love to make people smile.
Yeah.
That's my personality, right? So
Oh, so back to reality, back to where we're at now. The Canadian Pro Rodeo Sports Medicine Team, their golf tournament's coming up. You have a big part you've played in that for a lot of years now, but talk a bit about what that event means to rodeo as a whole and to yourself.
I'll tell you what, buddy, the sports medicine, Brandon, what they've done for us and for me, for cowboys, cowgirls, there's careers that would never have been extended to where they are if it wasn't for sports medicine.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I talked earlier about cowboys now being in better condition and more of a business. It's because of guys like Brandon in sports medicine. Our concussion protocol. That's one, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've had my bell rung so many times in my barrel. That's the thing that's always scared me is the head thing, right?
Yep.
We now have guys that are watching out for us and looking for it and helping you and know when you are and stuff. So sports medicine is, you can't put a price tag on these guys. And like I said, the thing for me, I will support them and help them as much as I can. And that event has grown to be such a great event.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it'll keep growing every year. I just think, to be honest, in our sport as Canadian Pro Rodeo, I think we need to have more cowboys and cowgirls out there to support them for what they give to us.
100%.
Because you got to remember, a lot of them is volunteer time. Like, it's not like people are getting paid to do what they do.
Yeah, like,
and you look at Brandon. You look at how many hours Brandon has spent at rodeos.
he's
Right? And
dedicated his
become a
life
good
to it,
friend.
man.
And now like, I've had him. I don't know how many times I've phoned Brandon because I don't go to. I'll be honest. I don't go to sports medicine.
Yeah.
Brandon comes to me.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm hurt, I don't go to Brandon.
Yeah.
And he knows that. But I can phone him 24 hours a day. I can phone him and go, hey man, I've been in a wreck. Can you help me out? Yeah. But after I pulled a tooth with a pair of needle nose pliers, that's when he stopped seeing me. Or when I got hit in the face with an axe in Hannah.
Well, that was gonna be my question. So my next question is that there's no like.
It wasn't planned.
Well,
it wasn't planned.
But like in your line of work, people might seem like it's easy and you're running around the arena, all this that. But you've had your fair share of injuries over the years. So talk a bit about.
I still got a rib that sticks out from 666. Do you remember who 666
Yes,
was?
oh yeah.
Shiver and shake.
Yeah.
From this arena. Actually, it was from Armstrong that's where he got me. But that's the nature of the game. I mean, you're playing. I've broken my arm, my leg. I've broken everything.
Yeah, you got.
But that comes again with the nature of the job, right? So.
Well, then, one thing I wanted to ask you about back to your beginning is how many years did you have to do the bullfighting and clowning in the same go?
Actually, when I started that was back then. A lot of times when I was just kind of getting into it, a lot of times the bullfighters could do clown acts too.
Right.
Like they were both, right?
Yeah.
So when I came on, that's kind of when the separation started to happen. And that's when the money started. So it didn't take me very long to figure out I could make a lot more money out there, and I didn't have to get run over.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, I enjoy it. It was fun to do, just to try.
Oh, yeah.
But no. So when I started, that's when it was starting to split, where the rodeo clown was more strictly an entertainer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think of a guy like Lee Bellows. I always see like old school pictures of him running around fighting bulls.
Yeah, he fought bulls for years. But see, he was another 10 years behind me, at least. So that was that era, right?
Yeah.
Ernie Marshall was another one.
Huh. Cool, man.
Leon Coffey.
Yeah,
Leon Coffey
he's
fought bulls for years,
right? Yeah. And I guess, and then that's probably just the natural progression of things is how separated, because it is its own.
Well, that's how a
deal,
lot of
right?
rodeo clowns started. It was old bullfighters, right?
Bullfighters.
That their careers ended, and then they got into clowning and stuff, right? So, but I remember Rex Dunn was probably one of the most famous for that. Rex would, be one of the top bullfighters, and then he'd have clown acts, right? He'd have his donkey and his dog.
It's a fun element, and it adds so much to the show. And like I said, I'm thankful to have watched you my whole life and been around you and call you my friend, and I think that's gonna do it, man. I'm out of questions for you right now.
That's all right, buddy.
I really appreciate you taking the time, man. I'm so thankful to sit down with you and kind of shoot the shit for 45 minutes to an hour or whatever we've been
doing. Like I said, kiddo, the best part of our sport is our rodeo family.
Yeah,
that is
100%.
For me. It's the best part. So if I can help you out with this, and I love doing it, and like me, I never fart because I don't shut up long enough to build up any air pressure. So I'm never lost for words, kid.
Oh no, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time today, Denny, and we'll see you out in the arena tonight. And that's going to do it for, I guess, this will be episode 21 of the Short Round Podcast, but we'll be right back right after this.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thanks once again to Dennis Halstead for taking the time to chat with me. It was super fun and cool to hear his stories, and we'll definitely have to catch up again soon. I think we do like 3 or 4 episodes of that guy with the amount of stories that he has. So it was pretty fun. Clay, so we were just talking about this off camera, but so the way things are shaking down, what we're gonna do, how we're breaking this down is next week we'll have our new episode of the Half Point coming out, where we'll do our full on CFR recap, our CFR preview with our season leaders, Canadian standings, all that fun stuff. We'll break it all down, and we're gonna have Robert Schmidt, who is going to be on the Cowboy Channel broadcast this year, at the CFR, come help us break it down. So if you guys are wondering why are these guys talking about the CFR, that's the way we're gonna do it, just to save a little bit of time and everybody's listening hours. But anyways, Clay, the 2024 season may be over, but we have a few rodeos left to kick off the 2025 season, and they're all solid spots on the schedule.
For sure. We've got Coronation and Medicine Lodge this weekend, and I think we've touched on this in a few of the other episodes, but although the CFR race is settled, we've still got that Maple Leaf Circuit Finals
yes, good call.
race. And so all of these rodeos are kind of almost double dipping, right? Because they count for next year's CFR, but they're still counting for this Maple Leaf Circuit. So there's still something for a lot of these contestants to be rodeoing for.
100%.
And I know that the latest post on the CPRA's website just talked about some of the competitors that have made the CFR for 2024 and how much that money they made at that Maple Leaf Circuit Finals the year before impacted
Oh, well,
where
look
they
at Jake
finished.
Gardner, man. He won like almost 10 grand out of there, and that set up his whole season.
Absolutely. I know Denham Ross and Cavis Drake
Yeah, they them too. Yeah, I think Strand Dunham
and
won a bunch of money out of there too last year.
absolutely. So it's, in last year, I know the Groves brothers had just missed out on the CFR, just needed to get something done at Edmonton last year.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to their dad, and he said a big thing for them was they had qualified for the Maple Leaf Circuit last fall because they were pretty much the only bunch or only pair that hadn't been there the year before and made money.
Hmm.
So it again, it's a big part of setting up that year for next year. So
Mhm.
these rodeos, there's a lot of layers there that some of these nice little spots on the schedule just
Yeah,
definitely are important for right now. So
yeah.
nothing, it doesn't shut it down.
We've talked a lot about head starts and stuff here when it comes to going to the CFR, and getting a head start in 2025 is not a bad deal because you're just that one step closer to getting back to Edmonton when we go back for CFR 51. So yeah, shout out to those rodeos coming up. They're gonna be fun to keep an eye on and see how what early races emerge from those few events. But before we wrap up here, Clay, I think we'll give a little shout out too. I'm out here in St. Tite doing some work for our friends over at Wrangler, covering this event, and I haven't even seen one single horse buck or bull buck or team roping run happen or anything, but just driving into this town, seeing the people, feeling the energy, it's crazy. They were telling me that there's 1,500 people as a population of this little town. About a million people come through for the festival Western, they call it, I guess. But it's going to be a heck of a few days. I'm pretty pumped.
I can say I've been there once. I won't go into the details on how poorly it went for me, but I will just say that it's something for any contestant or rodeo fan to try and make it there once, to
Mhm.
just take all of that in, because as a competitor, when you're behind the chutes, there are people right on top of you.
Yeah,
And I mean, the action is crazy. And some of those events that they have in there, those relay races and
exchange
everything that
race.
they
Yeah,
do. Yeah, and I can remember just the performance and the show. I mean, we're seeing some of the rodeos out here really starting to step it up now. And I mean, I was there 12 years ago or 13 years ago, and the show they were putting on was at a level that we're seeing in a lot of places getting to just now. So
yeah, yeah.
it's truly, it is a professional type of rodeo.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. I'm pumped about it, man. It's gonna be a fun week. But all right, Clay, I think that's a good spot for us to put a bow on it. But we'll catch up next week for the next episode of the Half Point and get everybody up to speed on everything CFR. But in the meantime, while you're waiting to hear from us from that, buy your CFR tickets. They're on sale now. It's gonna be 5 nights and 1 day performance of awesome rodeo, and 4 nights maybe. I guess my math is probably wrong. Someone will check me on that. But anyways, it's gonna be exciting, and yeah, I can't wait to catch up and break everything down, man. It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be great to be up there and get to talk to some people in person and showcase our short round here there. And
I guess I can't forget about that part of it too. So yeah, we've been doing ripping some live shows there and having some fun. So gonna be awesome. But anyways, Clay, let's leave it at that. This has been episode 21 of the short round. You can stay up to date with everything we're up to on the Pro Rodeo Canada social media channels or the Pro Rodeo Canada website. Check that stuff out, and you'll have all the news you can use on the rodeo side of things. But for that, I'm Wacey, he's Clay, and we will catch y'all next time.